Sir John Hawley Glover, Oba Goloba, the White King of Lagos. The architect of the coastal pivot, Sir John Hawley Glover, 1829 to 1885, stands as the most pivotal and polarizing figure in the genesis of colonial Lagos. Originally a naval surveying officer, Glover arrived in West Africa as part of a multidisciplinary expedition, a vanguard of medical, botanical, and evangelical minds. Among them was Samuel Ajayi Crowther, the expedition's interpreter, whose path would later lead him to become the first African bishop of the Anglican Diocese of the Niger. Their mission was to map the river Niger for the Royal Navy. But Glover's destiny lay not in charting waters, but in reconfiguring civilization. As administrator and later governor of Lagos from 1863 to 1872, Glover did more than merely govern a settlement. He forged a city-state. He leveraged the island's burgeoning economic potential to anchor a lifeline into the Yoruba hinterland, decisively pivoting the orientation of the Yoruba people away from the centuries of North African-facing trade toward the Atlantic coast, a geographical shift that remains the bedrock of modern Nigeria. To the colonial office in London, he was a loose cannon who disregarded protocol. But to the people of Lagos, he was Oba Goloba, a title that elevated him from a foreign bureaucrat to a local potentate who wielded power with the absolute authority of a Yoruba king. The making of Oba Goloba. The moniker Oba Goloba is a lyrical linguistic fusion of Governor Glover, yet it signifies a depth far beyond a simple colloquialism. In the Yoruba political cosmos, an Oba is a ruler of divine mandate, a father to the community who holds the power of life and death. Glover earned this reverence through a style of governance that was raw, personal, and patriarchal, standing in stark contrast to the antiseptic, bureaucratic aloofness of his British peers. Shunning the stiffening confines of the colonial secretariat, Glover transformed the makeshift government house into a palace courtyard. He would sit on his veranda, wreathed in the smoke of his pipe, dispensing justice in the open air. He welcomed everyone, from the merchant princes to market women and runaway slaves, allowing them to bypass the labyrinthine and alien British courts, listening to grievances in their own tongue through trusted intermediaries. He delivered swift, summary judgments. His verdict of the veranda was a blend of naval discipline and Christian equity, tempered by a keen respect for local custom. To the common Lagosian, he was a shield against both the rapaciousness of local chiefs and the cold formality of English law. The forward policy, shattering the monopolies. Glover's governing philosophy was consumed by his forward policy, a relentless expansionist strategy designed to unlock the Yoruba interior for free trade. At the time, the lucrative trade in palm oil, the region's liquid gold, was held in a vice grip by the Egba, Abeokuta, and Ijebu kingdoms. These independent states acted as formidable middlemen, preventing European merchants from reaching the interior and forbidding hinterland tribes from accessing the coast directly. While London issued stern directives of non-intervention and commanded him to remain within the confines of Lagos Island, Glover chose strategic defiance. He realized that for Lagos to breathe, the hinterland had to be cracked open. He viewed the isolationist policies of the Egba and Ijebu not as sovereign rights, but as barriers to the civilizing flow of commerce. Economic warfare and the Ondo Road. When diplomacy failed, Glover turned to the ledger and the blockade. Whenever the Egba shorted trade routes to exert leverage, Glover retaliated by cutting off the access to firearms, gunpowder, and luxury imports. Yet his most brilliant strategic stroke was the Ondo Road. In an act of geographical defiance, Glover dispatched agents to survey a route to the east, bypassing the Egba and Ijebu territories entirely. This path sought to link the Lagos Lagoon directly to the northeastern Yoruba states of the Ijesha and Ekiti. By flanking the xenophobic Egba and Ijebu kingdoms, he intended to starve the middlemen of the monopoly and create a direct corridor for commerce that would permanently alter the region's trade dynamics. Epe War and the Lagoon alliances. Glover was equally adept at kinetic diplomacy. He utilized gunboats to enforce the peace of the lagoon, ensuring that the waterways remained open for his most loyal constituents, the market women. His mastery of the complex waterways was bolstered by an unlikely friendship with Balogun Oshodi. Following the resettlement of Kosoko's loyalists from Epe to Epetedo, Glover cultivated a deep bond with Balogun Oshodi Takpa. The chief's unparalleled knowledge of the lagoon, honed during his years as a warlord waging trade-disrupting wars against the British, became an asset for the colony. This reconciliation between the former enemies allowed Glover to stabilize the coast and integrate the excommunicated Kosoko fraction into the new order of Lagos. Glover's Hausas, the genesis of the police and the army. Perhaps Glover's most enduring legacy is the creation of a military force that answered to him alone. In 1863, he recruited a group of runaway slaves, principally Hausas from the north, who had fled servitude in Yoruba land. Initially mocked by his detractors as Glover's 40 thieves due to their rugged origins, these men became a fiercely loyal Praetorian Guard. Glover had essentially purchased their freedom and bestowed upon them a new identity. Clad in distinctive Zouave-style uniforms, the Hausa constabulary became the armor of his forward policy. They projected British and Glover's power into the interior, guarded the new trade routes, and maintained a stern peace. This unit is the direct institutional ancestor of both the Nigerian Army and the Nigeria Police Force. the Liverpool of West Africa, urban transformation. Domestically, Glover was the visionary architect of modern Lagos, a city he dreamed would become the Liverpool of West Africa. He looked at the muddy, eroding banks of the island and saw a grand promenade. Under his direction, the Lagos Marina was constructed, an embankment that protected the island from the Lagoon and created a prestigious theater for commerce and government. He introduced the first public street lighting to the city, using oil lamps to pierce the coastal darkness and transform the safety of the night. Furthermore, he imposed a grid structure upon the chaotic settlements, driving broad streets through the heart of Isaleko. These urban attributes still define the business district of Lagos Island today. The form and legend of Goloba. Glover's audacity eventually became a diplomatic liability. His forward policy was expensive, and his aggressive maneuvering near Lekki, a name derived from the German merchant Captain Lekki, began to clash with burgeoning German and French interests in the region. London, weary of his expensive private wars and constant insubordination, recalled him in 1872. His departure was not a celebration of the end of a tyrant, but a moment of collective grief. It is recorded that as his ship pulled away from the harbor, thousands of Lagosians, market women, merchants, and his loyal Hausa soldiers wept openly at the water's edge. He had laid the physical, military, and economic foundations of a future nation. For decades after, the people of Lagos would measure every successor against the ghost of the White King, the man they called Oba Goloba.